Welcome to DBChats, where we talk culture, fitness, police, and more. I'm Drew.
Hi, Bryce.
And we are back. So today, let us talk about current events.
Current events.
Yes. Of course, the one that's dominating is the Colorado Springs shooting.
Yes.
And what have you learned about it? Because I guess I kind of brought this up the other day, and I know you've been doing research, so how do you feel about this?
It's terrible.
Okay, well then there we go. That's DB Chats.
That's it. It's terrible.
And we're off.
The end.
No, I think there's a lot of issues that are going to come up with this. I wanted to look at it from how the police responded and what history they have with, obviously this guy seems to be known to them, and like why this dude was allowed to just keep all of his guns when he has such a violent history. Let's just bring up some news articles. What do you say?
Yeah. It also said that the guns were registered to him, so that's important. So it's not like he got them from somebody else. Mm-hmm. Like the history showed that they were registered to him.
I say first let's actually get to the hero of the story.
It's funny that you did that, because I was going to say that we needed to bring up this guy's picture.
Yeah. This guy, Richard Fierro, he is the absolute G. He's basically is the man who single-handedly took down the gunman in the club. Former Army veteran, he served in Iraq and Afghanistan. This dude, no other way to say it, this guy's a hero.
Badass.
Yeah. Mr. Fierro was at the table of Club P with his wife, daughter, and friends on Saturday watching a drag show, which that's probably why the shooting happens, because in America, that seems to be the most evil thing here, according to half of America. When a sudden flash of gunfire ripped across the nightclub and instincts forged during 4 combat deployments in Iraq and Afghanistan instantly kicked in. Fight back, he told himself, protect young people. Now, one thing I like to look at is how we handle situations. The fact that this guy...
You mean on the law enforcement side?
From the law enforcement... Well, this is just sort of a human nature side.
Oh, okay, human nature side.
Even somebody who's like trained in combat, there is a significant delay. I guess we can delete that, huh? There is a significant delay from the time a threat appears and the time you actually react to the threat. I know they talk to us whenever we're in any sort of training that when we're actually talking to a suspect and they decide to pull a weapon out or do anything like that, it's like a 2-second gap between the time you can visualize, identify, and actually physically react to the threat. And that is just us talking to somebody who could very well, we may have some suspicion of being a threat.
And our attention is already on this person.
Right. Now, if you're at a club, obviously there's a lot of background noise. You're at a club, you're probably drinking if it's something alcohol involved. There's a lot of things you're not even expecting something like this, because I can tell you right now, if I'm at a club, I do not expect like the whole place to erupt in gunfire.
Right.
The fact that he was able to identify the threat and kick in and basically disarm this guy as fast as he did, saving probably dozens of people, that's actually just really impressive to me.
Yeah. I'm sure that, it's not any profound thing to say that obviously like he had training, and I'm sure a lot of that kicked in. But it's I don't know how long, does it say how long he's been out?
He's 45, who spent 15 years as an Army officer and left as a major in 2013.
2013.
So going on 10 years this guy's been out of the military.
Yeah, so that's crazy.
Yeah.
Because he's been out of combat mode or in situations that would it would be necessary to use that type of training, and it's still there.
Yeah.
Like, he was still able to use that training and go into action, which I don't want to take away from him as a person either with that, and then just talk about his actions and his training and all of that, and just kind of make it taken away from his personal character as well. Because there can be, we've seen in law enforcement as well that there's lots of people that have training and you're supposed to do these things and you still don't do it, and that's just got to boil down to your character.
Look at Uvalde.
Yeah.
That is law enforcement at its absolute worst right there.
Right. And then what was the name of the elementary school in Florida?
I want to say it was Park Lane. I think that was a high school. Are you talking about the one where the SRO just got up and abandoned the school? Yeah,
where there was pictures and video of him standing outside of the door, basically protecting himself while the shooting was going on inside.
Yeah. I can't remember. I want to say it was Park. No, I think that was a different one.
Yeah, I don't remember the name of that one, but
that speaks too much to America. I can't
remember. I know. I remember that it was in Florida. I do remember that much, that it was in Florida, but I can't remember the name of it. But yeah, so in that situation, you have training, and I can't speak to the training that in Florida, what they do with their school resource officers and whatnot, but you would hope that in America, it would be a standard for school resource officers everywhere to have active shooter training. But, like I said, you could hope, but I don't know. I can't speak to that. I know that our school resource officers do, our whole department does, but you would want that to be the standard throughout the country, but who knows?
Well, that's also how law enforcement operates. We don't have like a national standard for law enforcement. At least us, we deal with South Carolina. It's basically a statewide standard, and then departments can build off that. But in New York, they do it like county by county, I believe. Like my dad, who was a state trooper, he had a completely different set of training than a local PD or a local sheriff's department would have. And I'm actually pretty sure that each county had their own training centers and did it their own style.
It is interesting how that's different state by state, because there, like I have seen, I've looked it up in different states and whatnot, and there are certain districts, or like you said, by counties, or whatever the case may be, how they've got it broken down, where there's different academies and different trainings for different places, which is crazy to me, being from South Carolina, because we have the one academy that everybody in our state, in order to be a certified law enforcement officer, at least on the state level, you have to go to our academy and complete that. Now, what further, and then every year we have certain courses that we have to take under the same, like under the website for the academy in order to keep that certification. But, what happens at each department, you can do additional training at your department and so on and so forth. But it is interesting how it can be so different. Like I said, our school resource officers in our department, like we have active shooter training, we go through those types of things like as a whole. And you would think that everybody should, but we really don't know. Like in Florida, in Colorado, Texas, wherever, I don't know if they actually do that, or if they have even a standard operating procedure of how they're going to handle those situations.
And that's why it's so difficult for us to give a complete opinion on what happens. This is Colorado. This is like the other side of the country for us, pretty much. Everything from their standards all the way down to their laws are completely different. South Carolina, we don't even have we talked about this yesterday, we're one of 2 states that doesn't even have a hate crime statute.
Which is insane.
Yeah.
That's absolutely insane. And Colorado did have, from what I'm reading on here, it was called a bias motivation, or I can't remember the exact verbiage, but it was their equivalent to a hate crime statute. Because we were talking about this last night with Dylan Roof, who was a white male shooter who entered a predominantly black African American church in Charleston several years ago, and killed 9 people in that church. And he made it well known that he killed those people because they were African American, and in his words, he wanted to start a race war. Yeah. When he was when law enforcement captured him, and when he was charged, we had to have the FBI. He had to be charged federally in order to be hit with hate crimes, because South Carolina doesn't have that, and that's just crazy. And you would think, but that case would have set the precedent in South Carolina, or at least get people talking about, or legislators talking about writing a law in for that, because this was several years ago. What was it, 2015?
It was like when I first moved down here, honestly. I think it was 2014, 2015.
Something like that. And it was long enough ago for us to have, done something about this, but we still don't have one, and that's crazy. But that, you make a point with, it's hard to give an opinion, because I have people that ask me, being in law enforcement, like friends, or even sometimes when I'm working, just random people will stop me and ask my opinion on things, like, well, this situation that happened that's gone viral in Atlanta, or this situation in California, or this situation in New York, why did they do this, or why didn't they charge him with that? And a lot of times I can't answer those questions,
right?
Because I don't know that the general public understands that everything, like, state to state is different, and even sometimes within our own state, things are different from department to department. Yeah. So it does make it difficult to kind of evaluate or look at a situation and say, why didn't they do this, or why did they do that, when my training and experience is within this county inside of South Carolina.
Total anecdotal example of that is actually my dad. He spent 15 years as a homicide investigator in New York, and that's basically all he did. He did that, and then towards the end he was a polygraph examiner. He moved down south about 6 months to a year after I did. He retired, so he was just in law enforcement. You retire young, so he wasn't ready to just sit on his ass. So he got another job for like a local police department, and it was funny because I was still on the road at the time, and they hired him straight up as an investigator, and he would actually
here in South Carolina.
In South Carolina.
Oh, okay.
And he actually would call me whenever they'd give him a certain case, and he'd be like, "Hey, they charged him with this. Do you know what the details of this statute is? Because we don't have that in New York. Like, we have this as an equivalent. Is this sort of?" I'm like, "Yeah, well, then I'd have to kind of talk to him about the nitty gritty of what the law says, because he just didn't. He was so used to the laws up north that down here it's just the names especially are different. It could be the same law, just a different name, or the whole statute completely different. Because I believe up there they have degrees of murder and stuff like that. We only have murder. That's it. It just like little things like that. You just kind of look at it and you're like, oh yeah, so it's different, and then you have to get it into what each detail is for each individual law. But then again, it changes from state to state. So we may be an expert on law here, criminal law here in South Carolina, but we may not have any idea, just one state over in North Carolina, what their laws are like. So.
Well, that's kind of like when I worked in the sex offender registry at our department, and it's that it could be a whole segment in and of itself, the crazy different ins and outs of that. But South Carolina is a lifetime registration state. Some states are not lifetime registrations. You may only have to register for 10 years, 15 years, or whatever. But people moving into South Carolina or into Richland County, whenever they would come here from outside and go to register with us, they would have 3 days to do that. They'd have 3 days to come in, say, hey, I'm moving here, this is where I'm going to live, so on and so forth. If they were charged outside of the state, we would have to find what the charge would be here, the most similar or verbiage or the exact verbiage, in order to put them on the registry and to find out the parameters, because some people have residency restrictions where they can't live around schools, daycares, so on and so forth. Some people have to register quarterly, but some people have to register biannually. So we would have to do, we would work with SLED, the state law enforcement division, in order to like find those, which laws fit the best in order to, you know, place them appropriately. But it does make it difficult because some of them have different laws and we're like, we don't have anything that matches that very well, but we just have to find what's most similar.
Right.
So.
Yeah, that's... yeah, that makes things difficult. Let's get back to Mr.
our topic.
Fierro. Yeah. He saved a lot of lives. Mayor John Suthers said that Mr. Fierro, Mayor said he had spoken to Mr. Fierro and was struck by his humility. I've never encountered a person who engaged in such heroic action and was so humble about it. Just goes to show this guy is a hero. It was Mr. Fierro's first time at a drag show, and he was digging it. He has spent 15 years in the Army, and now relishes his role as a civilian and father, watching one of his daughter's old high school friends perform. This is the thing, too, with people talking about drag shows. It's not what people make it out to be on social media. It's just people dressing up in drag and having fun and dancing. I mean, Colorado Springs is a very conservative town, and the fact they have a gay club where they did drag was kind of odd to me when I read that. But I mean, you see here, dude's 15-year Army veteran, and he's just enjoying life. And I mean, he thinks it's fun. I mean,
you don't have to participate.
No.
And you don't have to just go watch a show.
Yeah. Have you ever been to a drag show?
No. I have seen them. Basically, I have had friends that have showed me like different TV shows that they're in, or different websites and so on and so forth. But I haven't actually physically been to one.
I've been to one when just after college, when I was still up north, and I mean it was funny. I mean they dress in like crazy outfits. It's I think the expression is they're peacocks. They dress in like bright colors, huge outfits, and they just try to get as much attention as possible. And it's funny because like you see them and you're like, okay, that's a dude, but if this person walked up to me in the street, I wouldn't know. Right. But like it's funny, and then the girls that dress as guys, I mean, they're very convincing too. Like obviously, it's much easier for a dude to pass as a woman than it is for a woman to pass as a man. But just because
I guess I could see that.
The more masculine features are harder to replicate for women, I think, than it is for men to hide the masculine features, make it look more feminine using makeup and stuff like that. So.
Well, yeah. That's the thing is men put just more on.
Yeah.
You know, you put boobs on or makeup on or hair on, but women to take away is kind of, and we've got hips and things like that make it more difficult to pull that off.
I mean, it's a fun time. I mean, like it's like any other bar or club you go to. It's just like a show in the background while you're hanging out with friends, drinking, and stuff like that. It's nothing serious, really. The kids want to live in that way and have a good time, have at it, he said, as he described that night. I'm happy about it because this is what I fought for, so they can do whatever the hell they want.
It's a very good way of looking at it.
That's how I am with life, just live and let live, you know. Mr. Fierro was trying to get get better at going out in Iraq and Afghanistan. He'd been shot at, seen roadside bombs shared, shred trucks in his platoon, and lost friends. He was twice awarded the Bronze Star. So, I mean, dude's a hero abroad and home.
So that's I guess also important. He does have experience with being shot at.
Yeah, So he probably suffers from PTSD, and this probably triggered that. I mean, I know they always talk about fight or flight responses, and the one thing that they always kind of gloss over, I think we've talked about that in training, is there's really 3 steps. It's fight, flight, or freeze. And a lot of people really fall into that freeze category whenever something like this would happen. Like, they would just hunker down, cover their head, cover their ears, and then just like wait for it to pass over. So I mean, the fact that this dude chose to fight is, I mean,
yeah. And that's not to say that any one of those responses make you a bad person. Like, those are just, those are automatic human responses that a lot of people, you're going to fall into one of these categories where it's going to be natural to you. It might be natural for one person to fight and natural for one person to flee and one to freeze. I guess the importance of talking about these things, and whether, what we were to experience with law enforcement taking action, but we're talking here about military taking action, is you have training to change your response. If it's not naturally fight, you change it to fight.
Right.
And even if it is naturally fight, you may naturally fight in a certain way, but you need a trained and logistic way of like handling it. Right. So I just wanted to put that out there, that if your natural response is one thing, without training or without trying to change it into fight, that doesn't mean that you're a bad person or anything like that.
By any means, no. The wars both still past and present things. This just talks more about his deployment. So it looks like in restaurants he's sat against the wall facing the door. Anybody in the military, anybody in law enforcement, that right there is that just is part of the core for that mentality. No matter how much you try to relax, part of him always ready for attack, like an itch you cannot be scratched. He's too distrustful, quick to anger, and held his wife and daughter. He had been held for his wife and daughter. He's working on it. There was medication. There was sessions with a psychologist. He got rid of all the guns in the house. He grew his hair out long, grew a long white goatee to distance himself from the days in uniform. His wife owned a brewery called Trevita Beer Co. So so a small business owner, made a club cute. Alright, so this is where it happened. It was staccato of flashes by the front door. Familiar sound of small arms firing. Mr. knew it too well. Without thinking, he hit the floor, pulling his friends down to hit with him. Bullets sprayed across the bar, smashing bottles and glasses. People screamed. Mr. Fierro looked up, saw a figure as big as a bear, easily more than 300 pounds, wearing body armor and carrying a rifle, a lot like the one he had carried in Iraq. The shooter was moving through the bar towards the door leading to the patio where dozens of people had fled. The long suppressed instincts of the platoon leader surged back to life. He raced across the room, grabbed the gunman on the back of his body armor, pulled him to the floor, and jumped on top of him. Quote, was he shooting at the time? Was he about to shoot? I don't know, Mr. Fierro said. I just knew how to take him down. The two crashed on the floor. The gunman military-style rifle clattered just out of reach. Mr. Fierro started to go for it, but then saw the gunman come up with a pistol in his other hand. I think the New York Times is doing a lot of, I don't know if this is all from Mr. Fierro or if this is footage that they saw from inside the club, but it sounds like they're doing a lot of narrating as to kind of trying to dramatize the incident. And started hitting him in the head over and over. I'm sorry. I grabbed the gun out of his hand, started hitting him in the head over and over, Mr. Fierro said. As he held the man down and slammed the pistol down on his skull, Mr. Fierro started barking orders. He yelled for another club patron, using a string of expletives to grab the rifle, and he told the patron to start kicking the gunman in the face. The person was passing by. Mr. Fierro stated he ordered her to stomp on the attacker with her high heels. The whole time,
I hope that is a drag person. I really do. Like, oh, you got a problem with me?
Yeah, I hope so too.
Sorry.
It's hilarious. The whole time, Mr. Fierro said he kept pummeling the shooter with the pistol while screaming obscenities. Alright, you fucking do what you do, dude. And whatever helps you beat this dude. What allowed him to throw aside all the fear and act, he said he has no idea, probably all those old instincts of war that he had burdened him for so long at home. Sorry. what had burdened him for so long. Home suddenly had a place now that something like war had come to be his hometown. Quote, in combat, most of the time, nothing happens, but it's the mad minute, and you are tested in that minute. It becomes habit, he said. I don't know how I get the weapon away from that guy, no idea. I'm just a dude. I'm a fat old vet, but I knew I had to do something.
That's really important, though. Like the part where he said, in combat, most of the time nothing happens.
Mm-hmm.
But it's in that, well, he says mad minute. But, like, isn't that, like, such a interesting parallel, like, with us or in law enforcement? We can be sitting for sometimes a few hours or, you know, and have nothing go on. We might have, like, a false alarm call, or we might have a report we've got to take for something, and everything is chill and nothing is happening.
Yeah.
And then in a split second on the very next call, it can be insane.
Yep.
And then you can go back to just your everyday activities. and so it's just interesting, the parallel there.
When police arrived a few minutes later, the gunman was no longer struggling. Mr. Fier said he feared that he had killed him. So, do you wish he had killed him?
Do I wish he had? I'm not going to say that it was a wish, but, like, in all honesty, it's not like I would feel bad if it had happened.
I'm glad they took him alive.
Yeah? You want him to face it.
I want him to face what's coming to him. So, I think especially people who do these things and then commit suicide, they take the coward's way out.
Oh yeah, very cowardly.
And, I guess, sorry. Me, selfishly, I want to know what their motives were, what their psyche is. Like, I want to know why this person is the way they decided to do what they did. And that I just want to know, like, what drove them to this point. And I don't want them to take an easy route to get out of facing their victims or what crimes they committed. Well,
it is also part of, I think, an important part of closure for victims and families and things like that, to know why. Not that it makes it easier or makes it better, but it's just an important part of the closure and the situation. Yeah. Sometimes it may help people to understand that this person was just a lunatic and had their own issues, and there wasn't anything that they could have done to stop it. Because a lot of times, like, people that, like survivor's guilt and things like that, people will think, you know, I should have done this, I should have done that. What if I didn't, you know, A, B, C, or D? So it's important for those people and their families to understand those types of things. And yeah, sometimes people should just rot and living with their decisions.
I'm all for throwing someone in jail for the rest of their life. It's especially someone like this who's just a hateful person who wants to hurt people
hurt innocent people. Like,
innocent people.
They're out having a good time.
Yeah, hurt innocent people for being who they are. You know what I mean?
Right. You know, it's not like, and this isn't to justify for this happening in another situation, but it's not like they're on two sides of a protest and they're screaming at each other, right. Or again, not that would be okay, but I'm just saying it's not as if there was anything like antagonistic about the situation or any two sides of something bubbling over. Like, they're just right. Out living their lives in what's supposed to be like their safe place to do what they're doing. Mm-hmm. And he entered their territory. Like, he entered their safe space for what they were doing. Like, they didn't enter an area for him, or they weren't, you know, he entered there with the intention of causing great bodily harm and death to the people in there for enjoying their lives. Like, that's it.
Yep.
Not doing anything to harm another person.
All right. Mr. Fier was covered in blood. He got up frantically, lurched around the dark, looking for his family. He spotted his friends on the floor. One had been shot several times in the chest and arm. Another had been shot in the leg. As more police filed in, Mr. Fiera said he started yelling like he was back in combat. Casualties, casualties. I need a medic here now. He yelled at the police and the scene was clear. The shooter was down, but people needed help. He said he took tourniquets from a young police officer and put them on his bleeding friends. He said he tried to speak calmly with them as he worked, telling them it would be okay. He spied his wife and daughter on the edge of the room and was about to go to them when he was tackled. Officers rushed onto the chaotic scene, had spotted the blood-spattered man with a handgun, not knowing if he was a threat. They put him in handcuffs and locked him in the back of a police car for what seemed to be more than an hour. He said he screamed and pleaded to be let go so that he could see his family. So this, when I was reading this article earlier this week, this is the part that really kind of made me question things. So, as law enforcement responding, I'm okay when you roll up onto a scene, especially something as chaotic as this. Mm-hmm. If you don't know exactly what your threats are, I am fine with putting people in handcuffs until you could ascertain and get everything.
Until the scene's under control.
Until everything's under control. Now, the part that got me on this one is, they said he was tackled. He was put in the back of the police car for what seems to be more than an hour. I don't know if I would put that, because they're talking to him. When you're under stress, time seems very different.
I was already thinking that.
I think both of us have been in situations where you're trying to get somebody in handcuffs or you're fighting with somebody. You may think you've been fighting with this person for 15 minutes. It's been 2 minutes.
Yeah. It seems like so much longer.
However, the fact that they took the dude who was already treating people, he said he'd used tourniquets from another officer on bleeding people. The fact that they took him and put him in the back of the police car while he was trying to render aid, I don't know why they did that.
I can only imagine, just knowing that we both have pulled up the situations, we don't know what the hell is going on.
Right.
I have no idea what the hell is going on, but I know there's people shot, there's people fighting over whatever. Right. There may have been one officer that immediately recognized that this person was helping, and maybe he did give him tourniquets because he saw that he was doing this and he was the only officer on scene, or there were limited manpower. I don't know. But I could, in playing devil's advocate here, reasonably think like, okay, maybe it was a shootout between two parties. Maybe they were thinking, oh, it was a shootout between two parties because he had the subject's handgun at that point. I think the subject still had the rifle, but he had the subject's handgun. So, playing devil's advocate, the officers could have been thinking when they got there, oh, these people were shooting at each other. Maybe he's trying to help his family or his friends on his side of this argument, or something like that. Like, I don't know. But it is important to talk about these things because the media is not going to explain this.
No.
As much as they're going deep and descriptive into this story, they're not going to explain this on the law enforcement side of why things like this happen.
Right. The only reason I would really react in that way was if he was acting extremely irate and was losing his mind over everything happening.
Which is very possible.
Which is possible, given the history, how he reacted in this situation, and honestly the fact that he was rendering aid. He was helping it looks like the initial officer on scene. Mm-hmm. He was helping him with aid. So I don't know why the follow up the backup officers are just grabbing him as if he's a threat. Again, this is something that you'd have to look at the body cam and figure out why they reacted in this way.
I was about to say that too, and I don't know if they would release it or not. It's probably going to be up to the department whether they choose to or not. It's obviously going to be a very traumatic situation, so and very sensitive to release something like that. I don't know if they will or will not.
So, again, I'm okay with detaining people on scene until you can ascertain what's going on, but the guy who's literally helping you on scene, putting him in handcuffs, I'm not sure how I felt about that. Eventually, he was freed. He went to the hospital with his wife and daughter, who had only minor injuries. His friends were there and are still there in much serious condition. They are all alive, but his daughter's boyfriend was nowhere to be found. In the chaos, they had lost him. They drove back to the club searching for him. They circled familiar streets hoping they would find him walking home, but there was nothing. The family got a call late Sunday from his mother. He had died in the shooting.
Oh.
Yeah, that's terrible. When Mr. Fierro heard, he said he held his daughter and cried. In part, he cried because he knew what lay ahead. The families of the dead, the people who were shot, had now been in war like he had. They would struggle like he and so many of his combat buddies had. They would ache with misplaced vigilance. They would lash out in anger, never be able to scratch the itch of fear, be torn by the longing to forget the urge. They always remember. My little girl, she screamed, and I was crying with her. He said, driving home from the hospital, I told them, look, I've gone through this before, the downrange. When this happens, you just get out on the next patrol. You need to go get it out of your mind. That is how you cured it. You cured it by doing more. Eventually, you get home safe, but here I worry there's no next patrol. It's harder to cure. You are already home. So, again, that was supposed to be a safe place. So, that's not like you're out on the street as a cop. You're not out on a transport for the military. You're not on a deployment. You're at home. You're at a club. That's the reality of what we live in now, unfortunately.
Yeah.
An early version of this article on the first-person account referred incorrectly to the person who had helped subdue the gunman. The owner of the club said the person was a transgender woman, not a drag performer. So it wasn't a drag person, but it was a transgender woman that beat the shit out of the dude in high heels. So
I'm good with it.
I'm okay with that. Yeah. And they did a lot of dramatization on this, but
oh really? Like beating the pistol into his skull?
Yeah, I not all of it was quoted, so I don't know how much of this the author romanticized. Like as far as I don't know if that's even the right word for it, but
I know what you're saying.
They definitely. But all of that being said, this dude's a total G. He's a hero.
Yep.
This guy. He deserves. This dude deserves another medal. So,
Here.
let's start with this. This is the actual red flag law that was not triggered under by the state.
This is Colorado's.
This is Colorado's red flag law. They implemented it in, I believe it was 2020 they implemented this.
After the last shooting in 2019?
No, this is, it might have been, yeah. Because you know how, so what states have been doing are these red flag laws, and basically what they are, they're petitions to have firearms taken away from people who are a threat to themselves or others. So people who are suicidal, who are violent. It's a since you can't actually take someone's, because of the Second Amendment, you can't take away someone's weapons permanently. They use red flag laws as a way to temporarily seize weapons until the person can be assessed. Instead of looking at a news article about this, I just figured we'd just bring up the whole law and go through it. This act creates the ability for a family or household member or a law enforcement officer to petition a court for a temporary extreme risk protection order, ERPO, beginning on January 1st, 2020. So it went into effect going on 3 years ago now. The petitioner must establish a preponderance of the evidence that a person poses a significant risk to self or others by having a firearm in his or her custody or control, or by possessing, purchasing, or receiving a firearm. The petitioner must submit an affidavit signed under oath and penalty of perjury that sets forth facts to support the insurance of a temporary ERPO and a reasonable basis for believing they exist. The court must hold temporary ERPO hearing in person or by telephone on the day the petition is filed or on the court day immediately following the day the petition is filed. Basically what that says is any family, household member, or law enforcement. So it has to be basically how in our laws would be a domestic partner. So someone you live with. Or law enforcement.
Someone that lives in there, or a household member, I guess, yeah. How we define household members under the domestic violence statute, yeah.
Right. So it'd be a household member or law enforcement, so the state can actually petition as well, which...
And I think what's important to point out on here, to kind of dispel a lot of like the false narrative, or maybe like false like rumors that are put out there about these red flag laws, because obviously it's a hot topic, which, you know, throw the chili on here, spicy content. And it's important to point out that it says the petitioner must submit an affidavit signed under an oath and penalty of perjury, because a lot of people, you know, spread something saying, well, anybody can just say that you're crazy, and anyone can just say that, you know, so on and so forth, and then you just get your guns taken away. And that's kind of what, like, the narrative that's put out is like, anyone can say anything, you get your guns taken away. But this person has to go under oath and understand that under penalty of perjury, the facts that they're saying are what they believe to be true. And now, I'm not saying that some people may not lie under oath, even though they understand that, but it is another control set in place to prevent situations where, you know, there's a revenge type of thing, like, oh, I broke up with my baby daddy and he pissed me off, so I'm gonna get his guns taken away, or whatever the case may be.
And that is exactly why I didn't want to bring up a news article about this. I just wanted to bring up the government website and look exactly what the law says.
Right, so there's no bias put into place, so you can't say that this type of news source is going to put this spin on it, or this news source is going to put this spin on it. Just bring up the law, and we'll just talk like specifically about what the law itself says.
And based on everything, mind you, this is Colorado specific. It could change from state to state. I think this is actually fine.
Based off this first summary,
just based on this first part right here. It can only be done by a family, household member, or law enforcement officer, which it really it's not like it can be just some random person off the street saying, hey, this person is crazy, take their guns away. It has to be somebody
with an intimate relationship or law enforcement.
Doesn't have to be intimate.
That close type of relationship that they would, right?
Very close, or a law enforcement officer, which means the state has the ability to do it based on say we charge the person or something like that with something severe. And then on top of that, you must also establish preponderance of the evidence, which means that is court jargon for saying prove it.
Right.
Now, honestly, I don't know what the standard is. I'm assuming that probably goes from judge to judge, or I don't know if after issuing of a temporary ERPO. So, I think this will probably get more into the details of how that goes. Yeah, that's what it looks like. Let's just get into the next section, and we'll just talk about the whole thing. How about that? After issuance of temporary ERPO, the court must schedule a second hearing no later than 14 days following the issuance to determine whether the issuance of a continuing ERPO is warranted. So there's a temporary one, and then they have 14 days to get a permanent one. The court shall appoint counsel to represent the respondent at the hearing if a family or household member or a law enforcement officer establishes by clearly and convincing evidence that a person possesses significant risk to self or others by having a firearm in his or her custody or controlled, or by possessing, purchasing, or receiving a firearm. The court may issue a continuing ERPO. The ERPO prohibits the respondent from possessing, controlling, or purchasing for 360, so just under a year. I wonder if there's some other court, like Supreme Court hearing, as far as like a Second Amendment violation this says a year, so that's why they did 1 day below a year.
Mm-hmm.
Upon issuance of the ERPO, the respondent shall surrender all of his or her firearms and his or her concealed carry permit if the respondent has one. The respondent may surrender his or her firearms either to law enforcement agency or a federally licensed firearms dealer. Not sure how I feel about that. Just because I know we have, even though they're licensed, we have some very sketchy dealers. At least in South Carolina, that
So they're federally licensed?
I would say so, yeah.
Okay.
I mean, I'm not sure how difficult I don't know how difficult it is to get federally licensed, but I mean,
Yeah, I don't know.
anybody who I've found that even in like some of the most legit places, there are some shady people that work at these places. Like, I mean, one of the bigger ones that we have, I mean, they've had a lot of their people get arrested for doing some illegal stuff with guns, and I mean, they're federally licensed, I'm pretty sure. So,
Yeah.
I think it's the safe place would be a law enforcement agency, but I think that might be something that they put in to get some more of the super pro NRA kind of people to kind of get on board with this.
Probably, and to make it, to take away some of the conspiracy theories, I'm sure, from it of, oh, the government's trying to take our guns. They're like, okay, well,
Yeah.
you can, you can surrender your guns to law enforcement agency, but you can also do it here, so that you're not, making this all about like government coming in and taking all of your weapons away from you.
Right. If the firearm is an antique or a relic or curio, the firearm may be surrendered to a family member who is eligible to possess a firearm and who does not reside with the respondent. Okay.
No, that's further into that and more into that point as well.
Yeah, I'm okay. I mean, for something like a heirloom or relic or antique, I get that. That's fine. If a person other than the respondent is determined to be lawful owner of any firearm surrendered to the law enforcement, the firearm must be returned to him or her. That's fine. The respondent can motion to court once during the 364-day ERPO for a hearing to terminate the ERPO. The respondent has a burden of proof at termination hearing. The court shall terminate the ERPO if the respondent establishes by clear, convincing evidence that he is no longer imposing significant risk causing personal injury to self or others by having in his or her custody a firearm or weapon. That's like a copy and paste they just put through this whole thing, isn't it?
By purchasing, possessing, and receiving a firearm.
Yeah. The court may continue the hearing if the court cannot issue an order for termination at the time, but believes there is a strong probability the court issued termination order prior to the expiration of the ERPO. I'm actually fine with how this law is written. It's very all-encompassing. Yeah. It's specific. I think that it leaves a lot to the individual judges to make the determination,
based off of the evidence itself presented.
Which I'm fine with. It is vague as far as what the standards are, because it just says evidence to prove that they're a danger to themselves or others by possession of holding. But I mean, shit, video footage of people doing stuff, people with drug or alcohol issues that because I mean you've seen it, people who are completely fine, as soon as they start drinking, it is like a bomb just went off in the house and they just lose their minds. Well,
our attorney recently at our department had a meeting with some of us because we have quarterly meetings. Supervisors on patrol have quarterly meetings with the attorney to kind of address some of the legals issues that we run into and get some clarification on some things. It's actually been really helpful, and I appreciate that we have that resource. But she actually let us know. I had no idea until she recently told us that, I guess according to NICS here in South Carolina, like you were saying with drugs and alcohol, if we have a case where someone is legally possessing a firearm, say we have a traffic stop and the firearm, which in South Carolina, if you do not have a concealed carry permit, you may possess a firearm if you are not prohibited from possessing one. You may possess one in the center console or the glove box, the closed container there. And she let us know that if someone is legally carrying it, say that's in the glove box or the center console, and say on a traffic stop, you find that they have a significant amount of methamphetamine, or I'm sorry, not a significant amount, a personal use amount. I apologize, I missaid that. Where you have reason to believe that they're using narcotics, or they're a narcotics user, and whether it's like they admit it to you, or whatever the evidence is, you can actually send that report to NICS, or it is reported to NICS, and this something similar to this actually goes into effect, where we can have that petition that someone that is using narcotics may not possess a firearm for up to a year after something like that happens. I didn't know that. I don't know if you knew that.
I didn't know that, actually.
I thought that was interesting.
That's interesting.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how, just given South Carolina, I just don't know how.
I didn't know that was something that South Carolina, I don't know if it's something federal or what.
I think it's probably one of those things that's on the books, but I don't think it's enforced.
Yeah, because I hadn't known for this amount of time.
Yeah. And what do they consider, I guess you said personal use, but I mean...
Yeah, so I guess the way that it sounds is written is that, right, if you're a narcotics user,
mm-hmm.
You obviously don't need to have a weapon in your possession due to behaviors that could occur.
Depends on the drug.
While you're on it. Well, yeah, that's kind of why I said something like methamphetamine and I didn't say, But yeah, so I guess it's to prevent that, but... Like I said, I didn't know about it, and I don't know how much it is used, to be honest.
Yeah, because I figure something like that, if it's something used a lot, I mean, I'm sure that we would hear more about it, but it might be one of those vague laws that judges probably have the ability to use. Because I have noticed, especially with our judges specifically, there are a lot of laws on the book that they can enforce, they just don't.
Mm-hmm.
I mean... It's sort of kind of a joke that I heard when I was in the academy was, if you actually go line by line in the laws, it's illegal to drive a car in the state of South Carolina. Just because, if you just take every law and enforce it on every situation, literally everybody would have a ticket, everybody would have their car towed, and
right.
Nobody would have a license.
Yeah.
It's just... But obviously, we don't enforce every single, because I think there's 5,000 traffic laws.
It's absurd. The amount of different traffic laws. You cannot drive a vehicle without making a traffic violation in South Carolina.
So I'm sure that this is similar, where there's a lot of laws on our books that just judges don't enforce. I mean, especially with us, with assaults. Technically, it's illegal to threaten bodily harm on somebody. However... If you
have the ability, opportunity, and jeopardy to do
however, if there's no manifestation of injury, at least our judges won't even hear that.
Touch it, typically.
They'll drop it immediately, unless there's some sort of injury.
Right.
Especially... This is one of the downsides of South Carolina, is that's big in domestic violence, is... That's probably why we have one of the highest rates of domestic violence, is they don't actually prosecute unless you have injuries to show. If you got a husband who's drunk, who's been threatening his wife all night, I mean, how many times have you been to the same house multiple times in a night?
Oh my God,
because of a drunk husband or wife threatening the other one?
Mm-hmm.
They're not making a move, they're just saying shit. But judges won't prosecute that.
And it's a difficult line to walk on as well, to kind of balance free speech and when there's a legitimate threat to a person, and especially with the domestic violence and that fear of bodily harm or peril. I have used that before. Not that it goes anywhere, because like you said, judges just typically won't touch it. But it does make it difficult. I try to, again, look into, is there the ability, opportunity, and jeopardy? And there's a lot of factors that play into each situation as well, but it is hard to affect even arrests that you can make, because a judge, I mean, sometimes we have judges that won't even sign our warrants when we know we have a probable cause for it, but
Right.
that's a whole separate issue.
Let's just finish this off. How about
Yeah.
that? The petition requesting the original ERPO may request an extension of the ERPO before it expires. The petition must show by clear and convincing evidence that the respondent continues to pose a significant risk of causing personal injury to self or others by having a firearm. Did I read this already?
No.
Okay. I'm sorry. This line right here
It just keeps throwing you for a
keeps
loop.
popping up, and I'm just thinking, oh my god, am I reading the same thing? This is why I couldn't be a lawyer. My girlfriend wants me to go to law school, and I just, oh god, it's just reading the same thing over again. My mind gets jumbled. If the RPO expires or is terminated, all of the respondent firearms must be returned within 3 days of the respondent requesting to return. Okay, that's fine. So if they're a continued risk, they have to basically prove that they're still a risk to themselves.
In order to extend it.
And if they can't, it expires, or if they're able to get it, they get 3 days to get their guns back at the time of their request. So let us be clear with that, because some people are going to think it's an automatic return, but they have to request a return.
Mm-hmm.
That is how that's worded. I'm sure that people are going to complain about that, but that is how the law is written. The Act requires the state administrators to develop and prepare standard petitions for the ERPO forms. Additionally, the state administrator at the judicial department. Okay, that's just they have to have the forms at the courthouse, basically, and it has to be a government form. Mm-hmm. This, I actually don't mind this law.
It's written very fair.
It is
very fair for both sides, for political party reasons and whatnot. And it's very fair for, I believe, the petitioner and the respondent.
Right.
In each case.
Yeah, I think it's great. Now, the reason why I brought this up specifically is I don't have the article for it. I completely forgot about it when we started.
Mm-hmm.
The guy, I believe 6 months ago, the shooter, it was 6 months to a year ago, the shooter actually was in a standoff with the police. Did you read that?
It was in 2021 over a bomb threat.
Yeah. He came into his, I believe his mother was staying at a house with a friend or family member, and he came in with his long gun, like in body, basically what he was dressed in when he did this mass shooting.
I didn't see that part.
Right.
I didn't see that there was a gun involved.
There was multiple. He had a rifle, and he actually made a video like on TikTok, I believe, and you could see he also has a handgun with him as well.
Okay.
But basically, he was inside. The police arrived. The mother, I guess, ran out of the house, and it was just him in there.
Yeah, the mother called stating that he was threatening to basically blow her up with a homemade bomb.
Right. And they ended up bringing out their SWAT team, and he ended up surrendering.
After negotiators and all got there.
Right. Apparently, it says that they took him, they booked him, but he was never formally charged, which doesn't make sense to me.
So from what I saw, he was like charged, but everything was dismissed. It was like everything was dismissed and dropped, and he actually contacted the Gazelle or some news media himself to have them either take the entire article about that situation down or amend the article to state that everything was dismissed or dropped.
Okay.
However, the records for the entire incident are sealed.
Right.
Which, because I wanted to look more into that, and we can't.
That's interesting.
Yeah, why are these? Because the news have obviously requested more into that incident, and everything is sealed, and I wonder why.
So, I don't know why the charges were dropped to begin with. So, I'm going to get into a controversial thing here. How about
Spicy
this?
content.
Spicy content. If you're a police agency and you have an incident where you have to call your SWAT team in, make a damn charge and make sure you go through with it. There is no reason to drop all of those resources because, I mean, when we have a call out for our we have what we call it SRT, but our SWAT
Special
team,
response team, yeah.
Yeah. It's a deal. It is a whole ordeal. You have to have like an incident command set up for I believe that's a FEMA law, so that has to be done federally.
Well, I think it is in order to continue to get grant money for that and whatnot.
Yeah, I did a class for that when I was on the road when I was a supervisor on the road. That was a very interesting class. Tangent. But you have to have an incident command. You have to call in, I mean, all of your people who probably are off. Some of them, depending on how big the agency is, you have people that are off that are going to get called in. That's overtime for them. You have to bring in like K9. You have to bring you got to bring in the whole glitz.
Based off of our experiences.
Based off of our experiences, but I mean any sort of, even a department half our size that has a SWAT team, they got to pull even more resources. They got to pull
resources, yeah.
Yeah.
You could have an aviation unit. You could have a drone unit. Yeah, there's a lot of different resources that you would end up using and pulling. And if it is a small department and you don't have access to some of those resources, you may have to contact, like in South Carolina, you'd have to contact the State Law Enforcement Division, SLED, to come in and help you, or maybe another, get help from another large department. So then at that point, you're using somebody else's resources to help you with a situation like this.
Whenever there's a big incident, we've had our guys called to help out adjoining agencies, whether it be the city or adjoining counties, to assist them when they have some. I mean, I can't tell you. I mean, just the other night, the next county over was requesting our help, our K9 for help with a track because theirs were already on a different one. It was one of those nights that the whole state was burning, and so it seems like the
whole county was on fire.
The whole county was on fire because there was something happening all over the place. But,
yeah, I mean, just the other day I had to let Nick, a guy on my squad, K9 was doing a track in an adjoining county because they didn't have a K9 unit, and they needed a track for someone who had assaulted several law enforcement officers, got into chases, he had warrants, the whole shebang. There was a chase that started in the city, and then we picked it up, and then it went outside of our county into the next county, and then Highway Patrol picked it up, so we kind of left. But when it got into the other adjoining county, they didn't have a K9 unit, so they requested our K9 unit into the other county, and I sent one of my guys to go track with him just so that we had more of our department people with him and make sure that he was good. But, I mean, that took like 3 hours of our and he was the only K9 that was working on our department at that time.
Right.
So, typically we'll have more than one, but for whatever reason, we didn't have the other guy today. So, that was our only K9 unit, and then someone off of my squad of our resources to help out with that situation.
I don't know how big Colorado Springs, their police department is.
Yeah, I don't know either.
I mean, but when you're bringing in those kind of resources for a barricaded suspect, then
something needs to be done.
You need to make those charges, and even so, even if those files are sealed, they they should still be able to petition for the red flag laws. I mean, it looks like it doesn't say anything about charges. It doesn't say anything about law enforcement interactions or anything in this law. I mean, they should have been able to trigger this law.
Well, ultimately, any of the law enforcement officers that responded in because this went into effect on 2020.
Yep, January 1st, 2020 is this one.
The incident that we're talking about with this guy that, with the bomb threat and apparently having all those firearms from what you saw, happened in 2021. This law was already into effect.
Yeah.
Any of the law enforcement officer, I mean, his mother could have done it because she is a family member.
Yep.
But any of the law enforcement officers that responded that day, there's a whole SWAT team. There was a whole squad that initially, that gets the initial 911 calls and all of that.
Yep.
Supervisors, everything that could have petitioned for this. They could have petitioned this red flag law to go into place back in 2021.
They don't even have to be one of them. It could be some investigator doing a follow-up. It could have been any number of issues. Something like this, I can tell you right now, if we had a barricaded suspect at this level who's making bomb threats, doing all of this stuff, I guarantee you, because I work in crime scene, I would be out there for probably the next 3 to 4 hours searching that, executing a search warrant, looking for everything, photographing everything in that house as is. I can tell you one of our investigators would be in there. They'd be taking charges. It'd probably be a sergeant or higher.
Mm-hmm.
Like they would make
a supervisor.
Would be taking these charges. Like this is a significant deal. Barricaded, bomb threats. I mean, I think they ended up the original charge. I think they had kidnapping against the mother. He kidnapped his mother. I guess.
Well, yeah.
Whatever their statute for kidnapping is. If it's similar to ours, I mean it's not a high bar to clear, really. But
yeah, hold some person against their will.
I mean, it's very
prevent
vaguely,
their movement.
at least in our state, it's vaguely written. I don't know what Colorado's version of kidnapping is, but I mean that's still a serious charge. Even for us, that's a very serious charge.
Yeah, that one charge. I mean, I'm sure they had several charges. I mean, in this type of situation, I would also look into aggravated breach of peace. That's a common law charge for us.
Yeah.
But I mean, that's a 10-year. If you breach a peace and an aggravated, enhance, it's 10 years by itself.
Yeah. So like none of that should have been swept under the rug and sealed. And even if it was, this law still comes into effect. You could still make this law happen, even though, the file was sealed. So there's no reason for...
Because those people were there.
Right.
They have reason to believe, based off of being there and what they saw, that he shouldn't be able to possess a firearm.
Yeah. That's
So I don't know.
Failure at the state, the police, the state level.
It is, but it's just sad to see. We can't see what happened with it. We could probably dive a lot deeper into the circumstances in that situation, but since it's sealed, we can't see that far into it. So I don't know if they got him mental health resources instead. I don't know if the mom became totally uncooperative so that they just let everything go. I don't know if there was some type of error on the law enforcement side, which error that they made, a technicality issue that would have caused all of the rest of the charges in that situation, what we would call fruits of the poisonous tree, so that they would, all the rest of everything would be not good for court, not admissible in court. We don't know, because everything is sealed. So that's frustrating. Yeah.
This is going to be the video of the Colorado Springs shooter's father. This dude is something else. That's him.
He's a character.
Yep.
Oh, I thought you were talking about the father. The father's a character. This dude's a piece of shit.
This dude is a piece of shit. This is him after being pistol whipped and stopped in the face by a transgender woman, which is awesome. But this dude is... I saw this video. I don't think you... Have you seen it? I asked you this.
You told me about it, but I haven't actually seen the video now.
There was a shooting involving multiple people, right. And then later on going to find it's the gay bar.
Yeah, right. And
I was like, oh my God, is he gay? I was scared. Oh my God, shit, is he gay? And he's not gay, so it's
well, you guys had conversations about that. You were.
Oh yeah,
you told him. Yeah, you were adamant that gay is bad.
I'm Mormon. I'm a conservative Republican, and we don't do gay. We don't do gay.
Yeah.
I can't get answers from the attorneys really, but they're saying that some of these, it's involving a gay bar or some shit. I don't know. I don't know what the heck you did if you have a gay bar. I don't know what's going on.
Well, he's accused of going on a mass shooting at a gay bar and killing 5 people.
Colorado.
Okay, well, that's shit. If he's accused of doing that, I'm surprised he's not gay. I'd say that, but he's not gay.
That's absolutely...
Bro, what the fuck? Oh, can I say that?
Sure.
What the fuck?
Like, this is insane to me. Like, this dude doesn't even care that he murdered 5 people.
Dude,
he's just concerned about being gay.
He says, okay, we want to go down this route. I'm a Mormon, blah, blah, blah. You're a porn star!
Yeah.
So it's against, again, no offense to porn stars. I'm okay. Like, do whatever your heart desires. But you want to say in the Mormon religion that you cannot be gay, but you can be a porn star and a drug addict? He's just using that to spew his own form of hatred. We've talked about this. We talk about religious things, stuff like that. I do believe in God. I come from a Christian background, things like that. But I don't think that God hates gays. Like, that's just, he loves everyone that he created. So stop using religion to hate people and to commit crimes against people and to think that it's okay to commit crimes against anyone. Sorry, you want me to stop yelling? I'll stop yelling.
No, you're fine.
Go ahead.
Preach, sister.
I just got here.
So, this part I thought was funny and ironic is public defenders represented Aldrich, the shooter is Aldrich, who is accused of killing 5 people and injuring 17 more in a gay nightclub shooting, described 22-year-old in documents as non-binary.
I saw that, and that is such a ploy to just... That's a ploy by them to get the hate crimes taken off.
Yeah.
Absolutely a ploy by them. But, I mean, look at this quote, sorry, above it with the dad. I can't get over it. You know Mormons don't do gay. We don't do gay. There's no gays in the Mormon church. We don't do gay. But we do porn. But we do drugs.
Yeah. I mean, this dude is all messed up on drugs. Like, he's probably high right there.
He probably is high right there.
Like,
he's
sounds...
like slurring everything that he's saying. But
yeah. Either he's got a TBI or he is high as hell right there.
Right. I also would like to, again, insert, I'm not judging people that do porn or anything like that. Please do not think that that is me saying that. And I'm not judging people that struggle with addiction to substances. I am not doing that. I'm just saying that with how people are about religion and what you are, you know, what Christianity and Mormon and Catholic and everything, like typically with these types of religions, you were not supposed to do certain things, also including killing people, by the way, just saying. It's just funny to me that he's doing several other things that are prohibited from the religion that he's claiming is his, yet the one thing that he wants to harp on is whether or not his son's gay. So, just wanted to say, I'm not talking shit about other groups of people, but the fact that he falls into other groups that is prohibited by the religion that he's claiming is just insane to me. Sorry, continue.
I'll talk shit about everybody. I think it's funny. No.
Struggled with a severe addiction to crystal meth.
Yeah.
Are we sure it's in the past?
In the past, but he's undone for 6 years until receiving an irate phone call from him 6 months ago. So, hold on. I think I saw this. Oh, I praised him for violent behavior really early. I told him it works, it's instant, and you'll get immediate results. That right there is terrible, terrible parenting, and that is, if you're a Christian or you're religious, that is the exact opposite of what they teach you. Well, I think, what was it, Jesus? It was when someone
you're supposed to turn the other cheek.
Yeah.
If you're slapped in the left cheek, you're supposed to turn the other cheek.
Right. That's Jesus. I mean, I'm not going to argue with him on that one. Now, if you want to say this
however,
is
if someone slaps me in my cheek, we're going to have some problems.
Yeah.
But I'm sorry, Jesus.
But teaching that violence works and you get immediate results, that is absolutely psychopathic. Nobody should teach their kids. Anybody who teaches their kids that should not have fucking kids. It's just, that's
I praised him for violent behavior really early.
And you wonder how he ended up shooting up a fucking club.
Well, the dad doesn't wonder that. Clearly, based off of his interview, he's asking zero questions about that, and he's giving zero concern. He's giving more concern as to why he was in a gay bar than the fact that he murdered 5 people. That's insane to me.
Yeah.
The logic.
Mm-hmm.
If there's a hierarchy of sins in the Mormon church, I wonder if gay or murder is going to be worse.
It's absolute insanity to me. So,
am I really loud in your ears right now? Because I realize that I'm yelling, but
whatever. No, but it's actually it's unbelievably aggravating, and I'm with you 100%. Like, this is absolutely disgusting that that is this guy's reaction. That is how he's treated his son, and that's the values that he's instilled on, well, his son, who is now an alleged murderer, since he hasn't gone to court yet.
Right.
So this one I thought I'd bring up. I thought that this was absolutely scary. And
oh, this is what my surprise thing that I haven't seen.
Yeah, so I'll let you listen to this one. This is a pastor at a church somewhere. I wonder if it says where this person is. Crimes unacceptable. Aaron Thompson is not a religious leader. He's a malignant cancer. He needs to be kept. I don't know where this guy's from, but his name is Aaron Thompson. He preaches religion. Let's listen.
Got shut up the other day. Now, am I sad that 5 homos got shot? No, I'm not sad at all. As a matter of fact, I think it's a good thing that they're not here anymore to molest kids. And I'm not condoning anybody to do anything like that. I don't believe it's right to take the law into our own hands, and I've said that so many times. But here's what I won't be upset about. I'm not going to be upset when someone that hates God and actively is promoting against God and hates his guts and molests children, even if it is just their eyeballs, to have to see these freaks writhing around and doing all these crazy dances in front of children, and then afterwards reading them a book or something. I said it's not right to take the law into your own hands, but I do understand why people are so fed up, because our own government is protecting these freaks, and that's all you see on the media right now. Right-wing MAGA kills, these queers, and then some guy jumped in and helped them or whatever. Who cares? Like, I really don't care that those people got killed. And you're like, that sounds really hateful, Pastor. Well, it is hateful, because I do hate them, because they're a menace and a wart on the rear end of society. And there's nothing redeeming about them whatsoever. Listen, we're in America. We can say whatever we want. And I'm not inciting violence, so don't even try to go there. But anyway.
You are inciting violence. That is not God's word. Reject. It's not. It is not God's word. You are not to hate other people. You are not to judge other people. That is his job. And I don't think that God hates gay people. I don't. Sorry, I guess that opinion will piss off some people that hear that and will, dispute that against me, and it is what it is. Everyone, you can have your opinion, so on and so forth. Don't fucking kill people based off of your opinion. But I just don't think that. I have friends that are gay that worship God. What is he talking about? Gays hate God. What? No. My brain, there's so many things that I have to say, I want to dispute, but there's just too much. And where did we get molesting children from? Because a woman wants to spend her life with a woman, or a man wants to spend his life with another man. Where does molestation of children come into what is he talking about?
He's just making shit up because he hates gay people. That is it. And
that's what I'm tired of seeing people do, is hating gay people, hating black people, hating any Jewish Kanye, hating a group of people. You don't have to agree with some people's views. You don't. But then don't live that way in your life if you don't agree with it. And then just mind your own business and go about your own life. But when you hate a group of people so freaking much that you use religion to justify your hate, that pisses me off. Because it's fucking wrong.
This dude is passively endorsing killing gay people. That's exactly what...
And he's I'm not inciting violence. How?
He's basically come out there... This is exactly what this dude did. He said, I am not for taking the law in your own hands. However, these people are cancer. These people are molesting kids. These people are horrible, God-hating pedophiles. And
where did that information come from?
I don't mourn any of their deaths. That is what that dude said. He just passively endorsed their deaths.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And because in his opinion, being gay is a sin, in his opinion. So
You know what? Let's just see how big this dude is. What's
his name? Aaron Thompson from
Aaron
the Sure
Thompson.
Foundation Baptist Church, I assume.
Let's see here, boys. Let's see.
Why is that? Is
Aaron-
it liked on the thing, but just so that she could easily find it again?
Yes.
Okay, when we get done, let's unlike it so it doesn't show the
Let's
DB
see.
chats.
Aaron Thompson.
And we're gonna find.
Oh shit. I just
Yeah,
went
put in
everywhere.
the name of the church.
Yeah. Hold on a sec. No, I'm just gonna say church.
Oh, there's one thing that says Aaron Thompson, Colorado Springs.
I think his thing went viral, so let's see. I'm trying to click with my left hand and it's not working. Yeah, Sure Foundation. Pastor Aaron Thompson was born and raised across. Okay, let's see here.
He did not grow up in a Christian home.
Portland, Oregon. Let's see. Our story.
Wait,
So-
he's 25? Go up?
Yeah.
Oh, at the age of 25. Sorry. Anyway, go ahead.
Prior to the launch of Satellite Church, that would become the Sure Foundation Baptist Church, the Pacific Northwest. Talk with the soul winners. So he's got churches all across the West Coast. So Sacramento,
So is he
Washington,
like a mega
Vancouver.
church pastor?
Must be. He's probably so. Oh yeah, he's based out of Vancouver, Washington. Oh sorry, I thought Vancouver, Canada. So it looks like this dude. You know what this is? He's probably one of those stupid ass churches where the pastor comes up on a big jumbotron in the middle of the sermon and basically does it from like a podium at his house. So he doesn't actually go to church. He just does it from home. He probably has a bunch
And
of
he's projected on a screen
Yeah.
inside of the church.
he probably has a bunch of pre-recorded sermons he's given. So he just has that stuff on loop and people come and they cheer for him and he's not even there. He's like legitimately at his house just rolling in cash right now. And because it's a church, he doesn't pay taxes. And yeah, like this is insanity. Like documentaries, contact, yeah. Do not
What's
donate.
contact?
Yeah, do not donate to them. These
Please
people
don't.
are this dude is he wants to say they're cancer. He is a cancer on society. So I am not religious by any means. You know this about me.
I do know that about you.
I find hypocrisy in everything, whether it be government, religion, everything. This is the kind of stuff that completely turned me off from Christianity. Like seeing people. So I grew up in New York during when Obergefell was the big case. It was like towards the end of my college years, and that's the court case for legalizing gay marriage across the country. So New York was a hotbed of this kind of stuff when I was in college, and these people came out of the woodworks, and all of these arguments that he has said about trans people, it's the same exact arguments they made about gay and lesbians when that stuff was happening in New York. They were saying, "Oh, these guys are pedophiles. They're teachers that are trying to turn your kids gay. They're trying to force their beliefs onto Christian. They're doing all this. They're not doing any of that stuff. They're people who, just like you and me, want to live their life and be left alone and just want to be who they are. Like, who cares if they like men, if they like women, if they want to dress and drag? They're grown-ass people. They should be allowed to.
Right, and that's the whole thing. It's like, they're an adult. Like, they can live their lives the way they want to. That's why we have freedom here.
Yeah.
And I guess the point that I keep coming back to is no one is forcing you to align with those views.
Mm-hmm.
Honestly, the government's just no longer allowing people against those views to force them against their own views.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to live the way that other people do. If you don't agree with gay marriage or whatever, you don't have to marry a gay person. Like, you don't have to. If you don't agree with someone being transgender. You don't have to change her gender. You don't have to. But my stance has just really become just let people do what they want to do in their lives. Like, if they're not hurting anyone else, just let them do what they're doing. Mm-hmm. I'm going to live my life the way I want to. What they're doing, if two people get married or if somebody changes their gender, that affects my life zero. That doesn't do anything to me. It doesn't hurt me. It doesn't change anything to me. So I don't understand how other people don't look at it like that. Yeah. It makes no sense to me. No. Anyhow.
So I thought you would. I knew you would hate this.
You knew that it was gonna piss me off.
I knew it was gonna piss you off.
Yeah, because I started right before this. Like, I grew up Christian and I believe in God, and then you're like, boom, and I'm like, this motherfucker here.
And I know you come from a very, very religious family, so
yeah.
I just this is the stuff that it aggravates me to no end, and I just don't. Why do people think that's okay? Like, and who gives this idiot money so he can spread his hatred to more people?
Well, he's got, like, I'm sure he's emboldened through the fact that if he's a mega church pastor, he's got lots of people that follow him and praise him all the time, and I'm sure his ego is big enough to where he's like, oh, I can spew this hateful comment and these people are still going to follow me because they love me. Like, that's kind of what's dangerous about situations like that.
These mega churches, I absolutely despise. I think they are so they're not a church, they're a business, let's be real. These people do not operate their church as a way to preach or spread religion. They operate it as a business, and they do what they can to get as many people to sign up and give them money. And obviously there's a very, very vocal minority of people who believe in this stuff. And this guy is giving a platform for that hate speech. And I think megachurches should be taxed like any other business. The fact that this guy doesn't pay a dime in taxes because he's a church entity or he's a religious entity. So this dude doesn't pay taxes, and he has what did they say? Like 5 different churches on that website that across the West Coast. I mean, it's a business to him. That's all it is. But
he's a poor business owner.
I think he's a good business owner. He's a terrible person, though. But yeah, that's how we're gonna end that segment of today. Is on how terrible.
Screw person. Aaron Thompson.
Yes.
And Anderson Aldridge.
Yes.
Former Nicholas Frink.
Was that his porn name?
No, did you not get to the part of the articles where the guy that shot the people in the club, he had a name change.
Oh.
His name was Nicholas. I think it was Nicholas Frank, and it was I think it was at 16, because his grandparents raised him since at least 2008. He was a dependent of theirs, and the grandparents went with him to his court hearing. To change his name legally, and they told the judge that he wanted to change his name in order to separate himself from his father and his father's criminal background and things of that nature.
Yeah, well, I see that helped him.
Right. He has. He definitely stopped the era of the criminal nature or the criminal backgrounds in his family.
Oh, and one last time, this dude.